Now, how to really change this and transform this? We have to transform the first and for all the development paradigm. We have to have that based on the constitutional values and rights, based on the legal rights, and based on the human rights also. And the rights of the nature also we cannot ignore. The river is a living entity, is something that was said in one of the High Court judgments of Uttarakhand and also of the Netherlands. Unfortunately, Supreme Court took a position that that is only applicable to Uttarakhand and not to all states. But even in Uttarakhand, what is happening? When I visited Joshimath, when I visited and we worked on relief after the Kedarnath tragedy, it was not a natural calamity. It is a human-made, it is a state-made calamity. Even the environmentalists like Ravi Chopraji, who was the chairman of the committee appointed by the Supreme Court, was very clear about it. When the Chardham Road is built and people are really inspired to visit those places, Gangotri to Yamunotri, we know what is happening. All the rubble that is falling down is blocking Alaknanda, Mandakini, Bhagirathi, the tributaries of Ganges. And the landslides have made Uttarakhand khanda, nothing else. Even the 4,600 water sources of the flowing streams from this thing, where the hilly women were very hard working. They used to climb up and get the water and come to their homes. But now that number is reduced to 1/10, 460 almost. So all these impacts, and yet they are continuing to encourage lakhs of people visit those temples, and they are not allowing to stop in Joshimath because they say it is dangerous, the landslide can occur. But then why are they not rehabilitating Joshimath people? Then the forest is affected, the rivers are affected, the groundwater is affected, percolation is affected, and all this is experienced in the river valleys of not just Ganga, but all river valleys is something that I wanted to see. Now, when we say that, okay, so we have to follow the laws. There are a number of environmental laws, no doubt about it. There is not only Air Act, but there is Water Act, there is the Environment Protection Act, there is Biodiversity Act. So not just constitution, but the laws were the basis for planning the water management projects. And those could have and should have been initiated, starting with the smallest and down-to-earth unit, which is a community, but it is also a mini or micro watershed. Exactly the opposite is happening. Everything is top to down, top to bottom approach. And we therefore feel very seriously that in the present kind of situation where the climate change means erratic rainfall, any amount of rainfall can occur within a few days or even few hours, and so on. Evaporation is taking place when the climate is changing. The heat and humidity together decide the climate change index, and that is affecting the workers, no doubt. The building and construction workers, for example, they are facing deaths, but also the natural resources and ecosystems are affected. Without going into much detail, I will say that that's why in the present situation, when 1,500 scientists across the world are warning that even the humanity may be, not just displaced, but finished if the same thing goes on. And in 2024, the temperature was the highest. And even now, when the energy intensive technology, water intensive technology, based industrialization based on that, and centralization based approach to development planning is going on, there is no one who can really control this except the real down-to-earth communities. And it is their right given to them by the Constitution, which speaks about the local self-government. If they are local self-government, how can they not be taken as one of the stakeholders also? How can the tribunals who sit to resolve the conflict amongst the states, not to resolve the conflict between the state and its people. How can the tribunal not give them a hearing? So this is absolutely undemocratic way that the development projects are planned. So we are insisting, saying, Lok Sabha se unchi Gram Sabha. It is the Gram Sabha in the rural area and Basti Sabha in the urban area. And beyond that, there can be a Panchakroshi, there can be a mini to micro watersheds. And also in the urban area, we have to design a certain watershed and then plan it. In the urban rivers, we have seen what is happening to the Mithi River in Mumbai and Vishwamitri River in Baroda. And the rivers are also encroached upon with this kind of top to bottom approach. They do not consider the impact on the river itself and the rights of the river itself. Call it Mother River, we pray and so on. But what are the encroachments like? The first and the foremost, beyond big dams, there are riverfront projects. Now the Sabarmati riverfront has taught a lesson, and the High Court of Gujarat has passed a good judgment and constituted a committee taking in the environmentalists from Gujarat, and that has made some difference. But that displaced 40,000 people. We had to put in a very senior, a very committed advocate, and he ensured rehabilitation. But Sabarmati is polluted river, and although the riverfront is like a tourism project, the riverfront affects groundwater. Riverfronts affect the polluted, extent of the river, because the river is, brought down, narrowed down with the concretization on the part of it, and so on. So even these riverfronts, which are now planned in India, over 107 rivers, and each project costs not less than 4,000 crores. All this is the capitalist and corporate model which the rulers push forward without even asking, consulting the communities living on the river banks who have saved those rivers over generations. So we want riverfront projects to be dropped. Rivers ko aviral behne do, ye hi hum chahte hain. Embankments is another kind of encroachment. What is happening in the Kosi River in Bihar? We had our People's Commission and we made this mass actions, everything, and 15 committee reports, various kinds of impacts, and the 10 lakh people are really caught up between the embankments, and they face the hell of Usaha Trasadi, the natural calamity so-called, in 2008. But even now, last year, they faced hell, and all are not yet rehabilitated. Some relief cash is given. That is what we are not satisfied with. So basically, even when it is an international catchment, like the Kosi, all the Himalayan rivers flow through not just Indian states, where also the state government versus state government conflict goes on and they blame each other. But beyond that, when it is in Nepal that a dam is built, there has to be a people-to-people dialogue. We have the people-to-people dialogue. We had the World Social Forum in Kathmandu, and we were very happy to have those things, and we have these reports, including all the stakeholders. But the government is not showing sensitivity and sensibility to really ensure that even the international catchment has to be the river valley or river basin and the last unit. So the free prior informed consent, which is the United Nations principle, reflected in many of the conventions and covenants, especially related to the indigenous people. Now, if I say indigenous, they will certainly raise objections. When I was presenting the Narmada case, before the United Nations Human Rights Commission, the ambassador stood up and he said that, oh, we have no indigenous community. I had to explain to the madam in chair from the country like Libya that, madam, word that is used in our language is Adivasi, and that itself means Mool Nivasi in the indigenous community. So then he sat down. So this is something which we need to understand also.